Welcome back for week 2 of the Patone's Crochet Sock Along. This week we're going to start working our cabled section. As I mentioned last week, this is a deceptively simple cable. The cross stitches in this pattern are well placed and impactful. Again, this motif is not so dense that it distorts the overall fabric, and once you've worked the repeat a couple of times, it becomes quite intuitive. One of the things that I love about our crocheted cabled patterns at Yarnspirations.com is that we provide both written and charted instructions. Cabled charts act as blueprints for the cable that we're crocheting. If you've never worked from a chart before, they are great visual aids that can help in conceptualizing how and where a particular stitch should be worked. Note that only the cable pattern is charted. The single crochet stitches that form the rest of the body of the sock are straightforward enough not to require visual representation. Post stitches are illustrated with a crook at the end to indicate that they are worked around the indicated stitch. No crook on the end of a symbol means that the stitch will be worked through the legs of the stitch in a conventional manner. For this pattern, in between each cabled row, we have a rest row of single crochet, which is always a nice break when you're working a more elaborate pattern. All of our cabled rounds are approached with the right side of our work facing you, and all single crochet rounds are on the wrong side. We ended last week with a joined and turned single crochet round, which appears as one of those faint rounds at the bottom of our chart. We are ready to set up this cable. Let's get started. I'm going to give this tail a bit of a tug to make sure that my magic ring is cinched closed. Perfect. And I'll start the round by chaining 2. I'll turn my work. And I'm going to work a front post double crochet around that next stitch, inserting my hook from right to left. I'm going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And I'm skipping the next 2 posts 2 rows below and working another front post double crochet around the next stitch and around the subsequent stitch. You'll see I've skipped 2 single crochet there. And now I'm working 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches again. And now I'll be working front post treble crochets to form a crossed cable. I'm going to place a marker there and I'll explain it later. So I'm skipping the next 2 posts and working a treble crochet. So I'm wrapping the yarn around my hook twice, inserting the hook, drawing up a loop 3 times for that treble. And I'm going to do the same thing in the subsequent stitch. So yarn over twice, draw up loops 3 times. Now I need to work behind the stitches I've just worked and do another front post treble crochet. So I'm going to use this stitch marker to show me where I should be working. Normally I'd be working with my sock about 2 inches in front of my face. So this stitch marker is helping me find my bearings. You may not need it. But yeah, you have to really negotiate behind the work for this first round. And I'm wrapping the stitch marker around the next stitch. I'll be doing a front post treble crochet around. And so I'm kind of bending my work forward to access that stitch to work it behind. And again, I'm using that stitch marker to find my bearings. All right. So there's my first cross complete. I can put that marker aside, skipping the next 4 single crochet, or the 4 single crochet rather, that I worked post stitches in front of. 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches 2 rounds below, okay, and there are my 2 single crochets that I didn't work into, working 2 more stitches, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and I'm reaching my final post stitch of the round. So 1 last front post double crochet, and now the remainder of this round will simply be worked as single crochet. So I'm just going to continue to the end of my round working in single crochet in the top of each of the stitches from the previous round. So I'm continuing to work around, and once I reach the end of the round, I will simply do a slip stitch, join, chain 1, and turn my work and work back over all of those single crochets that I have just worked until I reach my post stitches that I worked in the first round of that cable. The last 18 stitches of my second round are partially worked over post stitches, as you can see. So for that first post stitch, I see I'm just working in the top of the stitch as I have for all of the other stitches, the single crochets that I've worked into for the round. So again, just working into the tops of the stitches, regardless of whether they are post stitches or not. Okay, so I'm reaching the end of my second round of this cable. So I'm going to join and turn again, chain 2, and I'm going to work my next post stitch around the body of the post stitch that I worked 2 rounds below, working 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and again working front post double crochets around the body of the stitches that I worked 2 rounds below. So as you can see, it's much easier to pick up cables when you're working around existing post stitches versus setting them up for the first time. So while that first round was a little bit arduous, it gets much easier at this point. So I'm working post stitches 2 around the treble crochets from the previous round. I'm just doing front post double crochets, and there's no movement in this round. And by that I mean nothing's being crossed. The post stitches are just being extended, and we're obviously just working single crochets into each single crochet as we have for the rest of the round. So I'm counting my skipped single crochets from the second round just to make sure I've got everything in the right place. And another post stitch, again wrapping that around the body of the post stitch 2 rounds below. And moving on to 2 single crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. And we have now reached our last post stitch of this round. So we're just doing single crochet now for the remainder of the round and for the entirety of the subsequent round. We're now starting our 5th round, which we begin by again working a front post double crochet around our first front post double crochet from 2 rounds below, keeping in mind that we're working around the post of those stitches. We are now going to do 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and we are going to do front post double crochets around the next 2 stitches, 2 more single crochets, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cross the stitches, the cluster of 4 stitches in the center of the cable motif. We're going to cross them the same way. So working 2 front post treble crochets around the front post double crochets 2 rounds below, skipping the first 2 treble crochets. And again, we're going to work backwards behind those 2 front post treble crochets we've just created. Only now they're a little bit easier to pick up because we're working around elongated post stitches instead of single crochets. So I've grabbed that first post and I'm working a treble around that, and then I will grab the subsequent post from 2 rounds below and I will work a front post treble crochet around that. Once those trebles are in place, I'm again simply working single crochets into the next 2 stitches. Again, I'm just making sure that I'm placing my stitches correctly by counting these single crochets that I've skipped in this round. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, front post double crochets around each of the front post double crochets from 2 rounds below, and then working 1 single crochet in the top of each of the next 2 single crochets. And then I will place my last post stitch of the round, my front post double crochet, around the front post double crochet from 2 rounds below. And once again, I'm going to finish this round by working single crochets into all of the remaining stitches. I will then join and turn, and then I'll just do a full round entirely of single crochet. I will see you in a few minutes to work on our 7th round of cabling. Okay, I've worked my even round and I'm ready to start on my 7th round of cabling. Chaining 2, turning my work, and I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet around the first front post double crochet 2 rounds below. And I'm going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches instead of the next 2. I am then going to work a front post treble crochet around the second front post double crochet from 2 rounds below. And another front post treble crochet around the next front post double crochet from 2 rounds below. And I'm going to go in right into another front post treble crochet, and I'm going to work 1 around each of the first 2 front post treble crochets from 2 rounds below. So the lines of the cable are sort of starting to all converge here. So again, front post treble, and now I'm going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And I'm essentially just repeating a similar action again. So I'm going to work a front post treble crochet around the last unworked front post, second to last worked front post treble crochet from 2 rounds below, and a front post treble crochet around that next stitch. And then I'm going to skip over and work front post treble crochets around those front post double crochets from 2 rounds below. Okay, I'm going to follow that up with 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And I'll wrap a front post double crochet around that final post stitch of the round. And again, I'm just working in single crochet for the remainder of the round, and we'll do a full round just in single crochet. As you can see, things are starting to take shape, and I'll be back once I've worked the remainder of this round in my next even round. Okay, so I've worked my even round and I'm ready to start my 9th round of cabling. I'm starting, as always, with a front post double crochet around the first stitch. I'm going to work a single crochet in each of the next 3, and then I'm going to skip my first 2 front post treble crochets that I encounter, and I am going to work a front post treble crochet around the 3rd post stitch in that little cluster of 4 stitches, and then I'll do the same around the final stitch of that group. I'm then going to work back, as I have previously, around those 2 front post treble crochets that I skipped to complete that pair of crossed stitches. So I'm working into the first post stitch I skipped, and will then work into the second. And every time you complete one of these crosses, it gets a little bit easier. Okay, I'm going to work 2 single crochets. And then I'm going to work my second crossed pair of stitches, which will manifest a little differently. So I'm going to skip the next 2 post stitches and work my front post trebles around, again, the 3rd stitch and then the 4th stitch of that little cluster. But this second set of front post treble crochets is crossed in front of the stitches we have just worked. So it's a mirrored effect. It's a nice symmetrical cable on the sides. So I'm working in front, which is so much easier than working behind. There's my first one, worked into the first stitch I skipped, and I'm working my second. I'm going to do 3 single crochets, a post stitch around that last post stitch of this round, a front post double crochet, And then again, I'm going to just work even for the remainder of the round once I've done that final. I'm going to work in single crochet for the remainder of the round now that I'm done that final post stitch. And then I'll work an entire round even, and I'll join you back here for our 11th round of this cable. I'm now starting the 11th round of my cable, again, beginning with a front post double crochet around that first stitch. And I'm just going to work single crochets in each of the next 2 stitches. And now I am going to work front post treble crochets around each of the next 2 front post treble crochets from 2 rounds below. Now I'll do 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and I'm being mindful to count my skip stitches so I can be sure of my placement. All right, and I'm now going to work post stitches around the 3rd and 4th front post treble crochets from 2 rounds below. And now I'm going to skip those 2 single crochets and do front post trebles around each of the next 2 stitches. Again, counting my skipped stitches to be certain of my placement, I'm working a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And now I'm working front post treble crochets around the last 2 front post treble crochets from 2 rounds below. I'm going to finish off my cabled round, or cabled section of the round, with single crochets in the next 2 stitches and a front post double crochet in that last post stitch of the round. And as always, I will now finish off the round with single crochets. I'm going to then work 1 round even, and we'll be ready for our 13th cabled round. For this round, we're not doing any movement. There are no cables crossing or traversing across our fabric in any way. We're simply extending each post stitch by working a front post double crochet into it. So every single crochet that appears in this round, a single crochet is worked into it, and every post stitch has a front post double crochet worked around it. After I complete this round, I will work an even round, and I will then continue in my cabled pattern for the remainder of the foot of the sock. Dependent on the size you make, you'll be working to a different length. If you are making the small, you are going to reach a final foot length of 5.5 inches, 6.5 inches for medium, and 7.5 for the large sizing. The cable pattern is simply repeated until you've reached the proper length for the foot. So again, working front post double crochets around each post stitch. And I'm working single crochets into each single crochet stitch. And there's my post stitch that I'm working around that final front post double crochet of the round. And we can start to see that the cable's taking shape. There's some movement there. So I'll continue my round in single crochet, and I'm going to proceed until my foot measures 5.5 inches.